There's lots of really, really strong conversations going on.
We should be talking about doing software rather than about doing cloud.
Used by an ancient artifact known as the CD.
And the Arkiva-sponsored documentary about the lift.
I've just registered the domain liftstatus.live.
Just say press subscribe, you'll go away. Press subscribe.
Good evening and welcome to Cloud Native Media number 10. What's been happening in the world? Isn't the world an awful place? It's just an awful place. So there was we've had this fire at Luton Airport last night. Apparently caused £50 million worth of improvements. So that's happening. I'm allowed to joke about that because no one's been hurt, so that's good. So what else happened? I took my dev team to Brighton. We went on the waltzers and on the roller coaster and everything. And the next day we all sat down and I said it's time to do a peer review. And on that note, who's been here before? Yeah, and who's new? Who's a first timer? Fantastic, brilliant. Thank you for coming. It's great to see so many people here yet again. We've had a couple of we've had lots of issues today, as ever. It's always chaos at Cloud Native Media, but we've got Andy and Helen here who are going to talk about cybersecurity. Hooray! And we were going to have someone else, but they've kind of had to drop out at the last minute. So we just got Andy and Helen. So who are we? We are this informal group. We're not a society. We don't have, you don't have to pay membership. We don't charge any money. We don't make any money. We just get very we just throw together some tech and go on YouTube and get you here and use this wonderful venue. Obviously, the lift's broken again. We'll try and make some more jokes out of that later. So what's cloud? That's my definition. Computing infrastructure, dynamically defined and controlled by software. What's cloud native? It's embracing all the advantages that the cloud can bring and not just doing things in the same way and assuming that sticking them in the cloud is going to be useful, because that doesn't really work, does it? Why are we doing this? Well, we want to collaborate. We want to get people together from different disciplines who've got different expertise, because we can't all know everything. We've got to learn from each other and do whatever we can. We are looking for lightning talks at Cloud Native Media. So if you want to come along and do 5-minute comedy routine or whatever, I mean, I'm sure you'll show me up terribly. But seriously, in all seriousness, if you've got something to come and talk about for 5 minutes, we have a link on the Meetup page where you can go and fill in a short form and say what you want to talk about. We have a code of conduct. It's an important thing. I will leave you to read it for a moment. Code of conduct also now available on our new URL, cnm.live/code. So organisers, there's David, there's me. We've been doing this for a year and a bit. It's been a ride. We've got some sponsors. It has. It's been a roller coaster. We've got some sponsors. Who's going to talk about TechX? Russell.
Yeah, cloud's important, and we think it's really important. I'm glad everybody's here. I'll second the call for lightning talks. The idea of lightning talks is that we get really just short 2, 3, 4, 5-minute things to just to share a point of view or an angle, and I think that's really going to change the way that we feel like a community and enhance what we already have. So do think about that, and I look forward to hearing you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm David. I'm Director of Livewire. We help organizations with their cloud issues. We work with them to build infrastructure, but we also work with them when they're building strategies of how they're going to migrate infrastructure and processes into the cloud as well. Just to follow up on the lightning talks, during the periods where we're all here and we're socializing, there's lots of really, really strong conversations going on. I'm involved in some of those conversations. People can hear those conversations, good 2-3 minute conversations around really interesting information and tidbits in these areas. And it would be really good if we could come up here and during the lightning talk sessions going forward, just share them with the rest of the community. So thank you.
Hello, and what's my job this evening? It's to apologise for the second time for the lift. I really am sorry. We did have someone come and fix it, and it broke again. So, next time.
And the Arkiva sponsored documentary about the lift will be the many repairs of our lift is being filmed and will be on some obscure channel. So we want you to subscribe on YouTube. Yes, it's that time again. You can subscribe, you can all subscribe, you can subscribe. Yes, please. Thank you very much. I think we've got 700 people on the Meetup group, but only about 300 subscribers on YouTube, so lot of subscribing to be done. We've got, next week, we've got a couple of things with SIMT and the RTS cybersecurity. I saw Mark's here somewhere talking about that. So we've got SIMT visits BBC R&D next Wednesday. There's London DevOps is on next Thursday as well. And then on the 25th, so that's the week after, there's a DevSecOps London Meetup, which is always a good one. Given that we're on the security thread tonight as well. And then we've got Cloud Native London, and we didn't actually finalise a date for November, but we've got a couple in mind, so we'll publish that as soon as we can. And yeah, the usual collection of summits. I think the main one for the UK is the DPP Leaders Briefing, which I'm sure some of you will be going to. So we had IBC. Who went to IBC? Yeah, about half the room. I've got a few pictures from IBC, a few of the things going on. And we had our Cloud Native Media at IBC. It's a familiar looking banner, isn't it? Yeah. So we went to this brewery. It was very dark. So I did do some video, but it wasn't really very usable because it was so dark in there. But I know some of you were there, and it was fantastic to see everyone. And we had a great evening. Got a little video of some IBC stuff, which I will let run while I talk about IBC. So what happened at IBC? I think what was very interesting that I found was last year at IBC, lots of people were talking about cloud. We had cloud everywhere. And this year it was much more subdued and much more focused on software. There's a lot more talk about software, which I think, given my definition of what cloud is and how cloud is useful, that's the right development to be having. So we should be talking about doing software rather than about doing cloud, because in order to make the most of cloud, to do the cloud native thing, we need to be doing software, and that's really important. I think we'll come to Freely in a bit, but there was a German trial of DVBI, which won an award at IBC. And DVBI, if you don't know, is a platform. It's an open, it's an open standard platform that integrates internet streaming with traditional TV channels. Let's move on to the news. So yeah, Freely. Everyone TV, which used to be called Digital UK, which used to be called Freeview and FreeSat, they've announced that they're going to make an IP service. It might be DVBI based, it might be HBBTV based, they might come up with their own thing. We don't yet know, but they're hoping to launch it next year. So I'm assuming they're not going to be coming up with their own thing because that would be a bit too quick. And it will incorporate. So I think the vision is that you'll be able to buy a Freely box, and it will have a satellite connector and an antenna connector and an internet, Ethernet connector and Wi-Fi, and however you want to watch your channels, they'll happen. And if you lose one of the, if something goes off air, if you lose your satellite dish, it'll fall back to the internet or whatever. So that's all exciting. We've had Sky Sports trialing this game mode. I don't know who's heard about that. See, Andy's in the room. He probably knows all about this. So game mode is they put a special camera on the rail right up at the top of the stadium to produce a live feed of a football match that looks like a game. I didn't know that was a thing people wanted, but apparently it is. So, or maybe they don't want it. Maybe Sky just thinks that people want it. I don't know. We'll see. Just compress it. We'll see if it's popular. I mean, I know they've had, Sky have done a lot of experimentation with this sort of thing. They had Player Cam years ago, which apparently was a bit of a failure. But I know some of you from Sky in the audience will probably be talking about it later. Oh yeah, and in the cybersecurity news, we had the company called Darkbeam. I don't know if any of you heard about this, which is a cybersecurity company, was caught with, ironically exposing all their customer data without securing it on the internet. So a bit of a whoopsie for a cybersecurity company, really, isn't it? Yeah. All right, cloud native news.
Hi, so just so everyone know, I've just registered the domain liftstatus.live. So we'll get that domain up and running before our next before the end of the talks, I think. We can get that up and running.
Probably be quicker than getting the lift.
Here we go. Yep, so security theme again. We're keeping with the general security theme of today's meetup. Library liabilities. So two. One which is probably much more widely publicized at the moment, and one which I think is just slightly more relevant to the audience. So I'll start with the LibCurl, as that's the one that's slightly more popular at the moment, or curl in particular. So LibCurl or curl is used in a wide variety of hardware and software applications. So it's like the de facto library for a number of pieces of hardware and software for interacting with HTTP and HTTPS requests. There is a heap overflow issue in it, which is quite nasty, and it's been in there for a very long time. Yeah, exactly. The maintainer has written a blog today. This literally got released today. They gave a warning about 10 days ago saying they were going to release it today, and the blog came out today describing it. And the issue is to do with any piece of software that's using LibCurl or curl that's connecting via a SOCKS 5 proxy. It mishandles extra long DNS names. So there is a set of circumstances where if an end user can cause a request going out via a service that has curl via SOCKS 5 proxy, which a large number of large organizations do run these big SOCKS 5 proxies, they can essentially return a redirect to an extremely long DNS name, which overflows the buffer and causes the respective machine to overflow the memory and potential security concerns. So that's pretty bad. He said it's the worst vulnerability in curl that there's been in a while, well, since it started. So there's going to be a lot of patches, lots of software that you never realized that relied upon open source libraries are going to be releasing CVE patches for their software because of this. The other one is LibCue. Again, probably not as widely used. LibCue is a library used for parsing .q files. Do you remember .q files? You know, used by an ancient artifact known as the CD. Remember those .qs? I just thought this was a slightly more relevant and interesting one, where LibCue is a dependency of some audio players and tracker miners. And a tracker miner is basically a piece of software that sits in the background, and when a track comes up, it will automatically download and process and give you all your IDs and everything. And a lot of popular Linux desktops include this by default. So Ubuntu, Red Hat, if you're running Linux on the desktop, you probably have one of these installed. And what it means is that if you download a .q file, just so happens this software is automatically configured on these desktops to scan the downloads folder. So it will automatically kick in this vulnerability and automatically execute on your local machine, all through a .q file, not binary, not an executable, just a static text file. So I thought that was an interesting one. Rapid reset ruckus. Say that 50 times. Google records the world's largest distributed denial of service event. So there's a new DDoS attack that's doing the rounds, we should say. It's hit all of the major network providers. It's Cloudflare, Google, AWS. They've all been hit with versions of this. So it's a novel DDoS attack attacking HTTP2 protocol. What makes it slightly novel is the fact that the difference between HTTP 1 and HTTP 2 is HTTP 1, you would have to open new connections for everything that you're requesting. So if you've got 20 assets on your web page, it's 20 connections, and you're downloading those 20 connections. So traditional DDoS is that you're trying to flood as many connections as possible, flood as many. Whereas with HTTP 2, it's more efficient. It has a thing called multiplexing, which allows you to have a single connection, but make multiple requests over that connection, or multiple streams of data over that connection. Problem is someone's worked out that you can exploit that multiplexing stream to do what's known as what's the best way of putting it? Let's put it here. The attack can have an indefinite number of requests in flight, maximizing connection utilization and bypassing typical rate limits. The exploitable cost is asymmetric, which means you don't put as much in as that costs them on the way out. So a lot of requests are symmetric. So the data you put in, the data you get back. So you have to have just as much bandwidth as you're trying to take up on their side. But because this is asymmetric in that you would only have to do half of the connection or a third of the connection or quite like small fraction of work your side in terms of bandwidth and resources, but they still have to do a lot more work on their side. So you can amplify greatly the result of over a traditional DDoS attack. So Google have registered the largest one attack so far, which was 398 million requests per second, which is quite high. And they were able to mitigate that with their external DDoS layer. In fairness, it wasn't just Google, all of the major providers, AWS, Cloudflare, etc., they've all put in patches for this. But expect companies or hosting companies who don't have these protections to be rolling out patches or revisions or services to mitigate them going forward. Yep. And that's it for me. Thanks very much.
Cheers. Well, we are exceptionally thrilled to welcome Dr. Andy and Helen from the Cyber Show to come and talk about cybersecurity. Over to Andy and Helen. Thank you very much. Press subscribe.